Have you ever found yourself trapped in of suffering because of someone else's mistakes? It can be incredibly frustrating, right? But what if I told you that there is a way to break free from this suffering? Take a deep breath and let's dive into the profound teachings of Buddhism, where we'll learn how to stop suffering because of others' mistakes. Lesson 1. Understand impermanence. Buddhism teaches us that everything is impermanent, including the actions and mistakes of others. By understanding this fundamental truth, we can let go of attachment to the pain caused by others' mistakes and realize that it too shall pass. When we encounter the mistakes or wrongdoings of others, it is natural for us to feel hurt, angry, or resentful. These emotions may arise from a sense of injustice or a desire for retribution. However, Buddhism teaches that holding on to these negative emotions only perpetuates our suffering. By recognizing the impermanent nature of all things, including the actions of others, we can gain a different perspective. We come to understand that people make mistakes based on their own conditioning, ignorance, and confusion, much like we do ourselves. These mistakes are not permanent, and they are not a true reflection of their essential nature. In practicing this understanding, we can cultivate compassion and forgiveness towards those who have wronged us. We learn to let go of the attachment to the pain caused by others' mistakes, realizing that these faults will naturally change and pass, as everything does. This mindset allows us to free ourselves from being trapped in cycles of suffering and to approach these situations with a sense of equanimity. Understanding impermanence also reminds us of the importance of focusing on the present moment. Since everything is constantly changing, there is no value in dwelling on past mistakes or holding grudges. Instead, Buddhism encourages us to embrace the present moment fully and to channel our energy towards cultivating positive qualities such as kindness, compassion, and understanding. By developing a deep understanding of impermanence, we can let go of attachment to the pain caused by others' actions and find inner peace and compassion in the face of adversity. Lesson 2. Cultivate compassion. Instead of becoming resentful or angry towards others for their mistakes, Buddhism encourages us to cultivate compassion. Recognize that everyone makes errors, just as we do, and extend understanding and forgiveness towards them. This lesson serves as a reminder of the importance of embracing compassion in our interactions with others. Buddhism teaches us to let go of the negative emotions that arise when we witness or become affected by the mistakes of others. Instead of holding on to resentment or anger, we are encouraged to understand that making mistakes is a part of the human experience. Compassion means recognizing the inherent suffering and imperfections that each person carries within themselves. It requires empathy and a genuine desire to alleviate the pain or difficulties they may be experiencing. By cultivating compassion, we develop a greater sense of interconnectedness and recognize that we are all in this journey of life together. When we cultivate compassion, we contribute to creating a more harmonious and compassionate world. Practicing compassion involves developing a mindset of understanding and forgiveness. This doesn't mean condoning harmful actions or allowing ourselves to be mistreated, but rather approaching situations with a sense of empathy and seeking understanding rather than vengeance. When we let go of the burden of resentment and anger, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. By embracing compassion, we can foster a more peaceful and fulfilling inner state, and ultimately contribute to a more harmonious society. Rather than reacting with anger or resentment towards the mistakes of others, Buddhism teaches us to extend understanding, forgiveness, and empathy. Through practicing compassion, we not only contribute to creating a more harmonious world, but also experience inner peace and freedom from unnecessary suffering. Lesson 3. Take take responsibility for your reactions. While we cannot control the actions of others, we can control how we respond to them. Buddhism emphasizes the importance of taking responsibility for our own reactions. Choose to respond with patience, kindness and understanding, rather than letting others' mistakes negatively affect us. By taking responsibility for our reactions, we acknowledge that our emotional well-being is within our control. It is natural to feel hurt or angry when someone does something that affects us negatively. However, Buddhism teaches us the importance of not allowing ourselves to suffer because of others' mistakes. Everything in life, including our emotions and reactions, is constantly changing. Therefore, it is important to recognize that our reactions to others' mistakes are also impermanent. This understanding allows us to let go of negative emotions and foster a sense of inner peace. When confronted with someone else's mistake, instead of allowing ourselves to be consumed by resentment or anger, Buddhism encourages us to respond with patience, kindness, and understanding. This does not mean condoning the mistake or letting others walk over us, but rather approaching the situation with a sense of compassion and empathy. By doing so, we alleviate unnecessary suffering for ourselves and potentially create a more harmonious environment for all involved. Taking responsibility for our reactions also means recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond. We can choose to let go of negativity and cultivate a mindset focused on growth and learning. This mindset allows us to view mistakes, both by others and ourselves, as opportunities for personal development and growth. By choosing patience, kindness, and understanding instead of allowing negative emotions to take over, we can maintain our emotional well-being and create a more peaceful and compassionate world around us. This lesson teaches us to cultivate mindfulness, self-awareness, and compassion, enabling us to respond to challenging situations with grace and inner peace. Lesson 4. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is a central practice in Buddhism. By being fully present and aware of the present moment, we can observe the mistakes of others without judgment and without allowing them to cause suffering within us. The lesson emphasizes that human nature is prone to making mistakes, and as a result, it is inevitable that others will make errors which could potentially affect us. However, the key lies in how we perceive and respond to these mistakes. By cultivating mindfulness, we develop the ability to observe the actions and behaviors of others without judgment or attachment. Practicing mindfulness allows us to cultivate a sense of inner calm and stability. It provides us with the mental clarity to acknowledge and accept the mistakes of others without being personally affected or influenced by them. This does not mean being indifferent or uncaring. Rather, it means approaching situations with a non-reactive and compassionate mindset. By remaining mindful, we can detach ourselves from the suffering that arises from being overly affected by the mistakes of others. Instead, we can view these mistakes as opportunities for growth and learning, both for ourselves and for others. Mindfulness helps us develop a greater sense of empathy and understanding, enabling us to respond to these situations with wisdom and compassion. In practicing mindfulness, we train our minds to remain focused on the present moment rather than dwelling in the past or worrying about the future. By doing so, we avoid getting caught up in the cycle of blame, resentment, and suffering that often arises from dwelling on the mistakes of others. Mindfulness allows us to maintain a clear and calm state of mind, even in the face of challenging or difficult situations. By cultivating this awareness in our daily lives, we can observe the actions and behaviors of others without being negatively affected by them. Mindfulness provides us with the ability to respond to these situations with wisdom, compassion, and resilience, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling existence. Lesson 5. Let go of resentment. Holding on to resentment and harboring ill feelings towards others only brings suffering to ourselves. Buddhism teaches us to let go of resentment by realizing that it harms us more than it does the other person. By practicing forgiveness, we can free ourselves from this burden. Resentment is a strong negative emotion that can consume our thoughts and drain our energy. When we hold on to resentment, we keep ourselves trapped in a cycle of anger, frustration, and bitterness. This toxicity not only affects our mental and emotional well-being, but also hampers our ability to live a fulfilling life. Buddhism teaches that resentment arises from clinging to our expectations and attachments. When someone wrongs us or makes a mistake, we often have preconceived notions of how they should behave, and when they don't meet our expectations, we feel betrayed or hurt. However, Buddhism suggests that by letting go of these expectations and attachments, we can find greater peace and freedom. One of the central concepts in Buddhism is the understanding of impermanence, the recognition that everything in life is constantly changing. People make mistakes, and clinging to resentment only keeps us trapped in the past, unable to grow and move forward. By acknowledging the impermanent nature of situations and people, we can release our grip on the resentment we hold towards them. Forgiveness is a core principle in letting go of resentment. Buddhism teaches that by forgiving others, we are not condoning their actions or absolving them of responsibility, but rather freeing ourselves from the burden of carrying resentment. Forgiveness is an act of compassion and understanding, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes and can learn and grow from them. By letting go and forgiving, we allow ourselves to heal and create space for positive emotions to enter our lives. Practicing forgiveness requires cultivating empathy and understanding towards others' perspectives and experiences. It involves acknowledging that people act based on their own conditioning and circumstances, and their actions are often a reflection of their own suffering and ignorance. Through this understanding, we can develop compassion and a sense of interconnectedness with all beings, fostering a more harmonious way of living. Letting go does not mean we forget or condone the actions of others, but rather it allows us to move forward with a lighter heart, unburdened by the weight of negative emotions. Through forgiveness and understanding, we can break the cycle of suffering and cultivate a more compassionate and fulfilling life. Lesson 6. Focus on your own growth. Instead of dwelling on the mistakes of others, Buddhism encourages us to focus on our own growth and self-improvement. By redirecting our energy towards personal development, we can transform the negative impact of others' mistakes into an opportunity for growth and learning. When someone else makes a mistake or wrongs us in some way, we tend to harbor feelings of anger, resentment, or blame. These negative emotions can consume our thoughts and drain our energy, hindering our own personal growth and happiness. Instead of becoming fixated on what others have done wrong, Buddhism encourages us to shift our focus inward. By concentrating on our own growth and self-improvement, we can develop a deeper understanding of ourselves and cultivate a positive mindset. This process involves letting go of the negative emotions and thoughts associated with the actions of others and redirecting our energy towards personal development. Focusing on our own growth allows us to cultivate a sense of inner peace and resilience. It empowers us to take responsibility for our own actions and choices rather than becoming entangled in the actions of others. By not allowing ourselves to suffer because of others' mistakes, we become better equipped to face challenges and setbacks, and we can approach life with a more positive and compassionate attitude. Moreover, when we redirect our energy towards personal growth, we can transform the negative impact of others' mistakes into an opportunity for learning and personal evolution. Instead of letting their actions bring us down, we can choose to approach the situation with openness and curiosity. This mindset allows us to reflect on how we can grow from the experience, learn valuable lessons, and become more compassionate individuals. When we let go of blaming others for their mistakes and instead concentrate on our personal development, we contribute positively to our own lives and create a ripple effect of positivity that can inspire and uplift others. By doing so, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering and cultivate inner peace and resilience. This approach allows us to transform the negative impact of others' mistakes into opportunities for learning and personal evolution, fostering a more compassionate and positive mindset. Lesson 7. Embrace imperfection. Recognize that just as others make mistakes, so do we. Embrace the imperfect nature of human existence and foster a sense of humility. By accepting our own imperfections, we can extend that acceptance to others and approach their mistakes with understanding and empathy. By acknowledging our own faults, we gain a deeper understanding of the human condition and become more empathetic towards others. We realize that everyone is capable of making mistakes, and that these mistakes are opportunities for growth and learning. It is through our imperfections that we can develop a sense of connection and shared experience with others. When we embrace imperfection, we no longer hold unrealistic expectations for ourselves and others. This enables us to approach mistakes with understanding and forgiveness rather than getting caught up in blame or resentment. By acknowledging our own flaws and limitations, we create a space for self-improvement and personal development. Buddhism teaches us that the path to enlightenment involves accepting the imperfect nature of existence and understanding that it is through these imperfections that we can find true wisdom and compassion. Embracing imperfection allows us to let go of judgment and appreciate the diversity and uniqueness of individuals. By embracing imperfection, we can cultivate a mindset of acceptance, compassion, and forgiveness. Through this practice, we not only free ourselves from unnecessary suffering, but also contribute to a more harmonious and compassionate society. Lesson 8. Seek inner peace. Buddhism teaches us to seek inner peace and contentment. Instead of allowing others' mistakes to disturb our peace of mind, focus on cultivating inner tranquility through meditation, mindfulness, and other spiritual practices. To attain inner peace, Buddhism suggests various practices that can help us cultivate a grounded and calm mind. One fundamental method is through meditation, which allows individuals to detach from external disturbances and develop a more tranquil state of being. By dedicating time to quieting the mind and focusing on the present moment, we can gradually free ourselves from the burden of others' mistakes. Mindfulness plays a significant role in seeking inner peace. Buddhism teaches us to be fully aware and present in the current moment without judgment. This practice enables us to observe and accept the actions and behaviors of others without allowing them to harm our inner tranquility. By cultivating mindfulness, we enhance our ability to respond to situations with equanimity and understanding, rather than reacting impulsively and becoming entangled in the mistakes of others. Alongside meditation and mindfulness, Buddhism suggests engaging in various spiritual practices that promote inner peace. These practices can include self-reflection, compassion, and gratitude. Through self-reflection, we examine our own responses to the mistakes of others and learn to identify and modify any negative patterns that may arise. Compassion allows us to extend understanding and forgiveness towards those who make mistakes, recognizing the shared human experience of fallibility. Gratitude helps us focus on the positive aspects of our lives, fostering contentment and reducing the impact of external disturbances. By seeking inner tranquility through meditation, mindfulness, and spiritual practices, we can detach ourselves from external disturbances and cultivate a sense of calm and contentment. This lesson inspires us to acknowledge that we have the power to shape our own emotional state and not be at the mercy of others' actions, ultimately leading to a more peaceful and fulfilling life. Lesson 9. Practice non-attachment. Attachment to outcomes or expectations of how others should behave or act can often result in disappointment, frustration, and even suffering. When others make mistakes or fail to meet our expectations, it can cause us emotional distress and negatively impact our well-being. However, Buddhism teaches us that by cultivating non-attachment, we can break free from this cycle of suffering. Non-attachment involves letting go of rigid expectations and detaching ourselves from the outcomes we desire. It encourages us to accept the present moment as it is and to be open to the reality of the situation rather than clinging to idealized versions of how things should be. By practicing non-attachment, we learn to release our attachments to specific outcomes or how others should behave. This mindset allows us to approach situations with greater equanimity, flexibility, and acceptance. We become less reactive to the mistakes or shortcomings of others, understanding that everyone is fallible and subject to making errors. Buddhism teaches that everyone is on their own unique path, and their actions and mistakes are a reflection of their own journey. By adopting a non-attached perspective, we are better able to separate ourselves from the actions of others and avoid unnecessary suffering. It is important to note that practicing non-attachment does not mean becoming apathetic or indifferent to the well-being of others. Instead, it offers a way to maintain our inner peace and happiness even when faced with the mistakes or actions of others that may otherwise disturb us. Through practicing non-attachment, we can develop greater resilience and strengthen our ability to cultivate compassion and understanding towards others. By letting go of rigid expectations, being present in the moment, and cultivating compassion, we can reduce our suffering and have a more peaceful and harmonious outlook on life. Lesson 10. Remember interconnectedness. The core principle behind this lesson is the belief that everything in the universe is interconnected. Buddhism teaches that our actions, thoughts, and emotions are not isolated occurrences, but have ripple effects that extend beyond ourselves. By grasping this interconnectedness, we can develop a more compassionate and empathetic outlook towards others. One of the key teachings in this lesson is the understanding that suffering should not be a response to the mistakes or wrongdoings of others. Buddhism encourages individuals to take responsibility for their own actions and emotions, rather than allowing external circumstances to dictate their well-being. Instead of blaming others for our suffering, the lesson highlights the importance of reflecting inward and cultivating a sense of inner peace and equanimity. By recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings, individuals can cultivate a sense of empathy and compassion. Understanding that our actions can impact others, we are encouraged to act with kindness and consideration, avoiding actions that may cause harm or suffering. The lesson teaches that by living in harmony with others and the natural world, we can contribute to a more peaceful and compassionate society. This lesson serves as a reminder that we are not separate from the world around us. We are part of a larger whole, interconnected with all living beings and the environment. Understanding this interconnectedness can foster a sense of responsibility and care towards the world we inhabit. By realizing this interconnectedness, we can cultivate empathy, compassion, and a sense of responsibility towards all beings. Instead of suffering because of others' mistakes, we are encouraged to take control of our own emotions and actions, contributing to a more harmonious and compassionate world.